Wes, what's up?
What's up, dude?
Here we
How
are.
you doing?
Good, doing good. Another day, kicking off the week with another episode here and some training. Got some training in today. Well, I didn't get any rolls in, but I did some instruction and was actually in the academy this morning. So started off the week well. How
That's
about you?
awesome, dude. I haven't trained this week. I trained over the weekend. So yeah, it was
Did you do
good,
some
man.
holiday open mat at Wes's house?
We did not the day of or the day after, but we trained over the weekend. Yeah, we trained pretty much all the way up to Thanksgiving. Took those couple days off and then trained the weekend. So
Nice.
then today, after we get off here, I'll do some cardio when I get done. Tomorrow I'll lift, probably do a little bit of cardio, but tomorrow will be a lifting day for me, and I'll train at noon here.
Mm-hmm.
So Wednesdays are usually some sort of cardio day. Thursdays I usually lift. Plus I train. I usually train on Wednesdays too. So, dude, it's
Every day you're lifting and training.
I'm doing something
Yeah.
usually every day. So
That's good.
yeah, I try and squeeze. I think the way that I think about it is if I'm, previously I had done jujitsu 3 or 4 times a week, and so I've been kind of had this idea, think like in my head, and I think I'm doing a post about it here soon. If I'm training 3 or 4 days a week in jujitsu, there's 3 or 4 more days where you're potentially doing
Yeah.
nothing.
With some
That's
people.
not how, for some people, and ultimately that's not how, that will kind of,
I know a lot of people like that.
yeah, there's so much more room for development and growth
Yeah, for
in those
sure.
3 or 4 days. And it doesn't have to be on the mat. It can be off the mat. For me, now my training loads are a lot, as far as on the mat, are a lot more. But I'm doing more lifting and cardio at this point because I am competing again here soon. So I'm not so much in world masters mode, but I am in I do have a competition coming up, and I do need to make sure that I'm
Yeah.
maintaining my gains from that training. So, 3 or 4 days, and the way that I think about it is if the way that the way that the post is coming, it's going to say something to the effect of, if your intensity is so high that you can only train on the mats 3 or 4 days a week, then there's 3 or 4 days that you're doing nothing because
Right.
the intensity is so high. But that it doesn't even have to be about intensity. Some people are just happy training 3 or 4 days a week, and there's nothing wrong with that. I lived most of my jiu-jitsu career doing that because
Yeah.
I was in grad school or whatever.
Yeah.
But there's still 3 or 4 days where, an hour. I can easily squeeze in an hour session 3 or 4 days a week off the mat, and still get some really good benefits to the things that I'm trying to do. So
You could do 15 minutes.
totally,
That's the thing. It's all about commitment. And I'm the same. I'm in the same boat. I'm like, there's just days, especially recently, it's been just the last few months been really rough. I've been just completely out of my schedule. I'm usually very regimented, these days I do jujitsu, these days I lift, all that, And I was getting for years and years and years, 6, 7 days. Sometimes I would have to stop myself from going the 7th day of the week, right? I just get in that good of a rhythm and you feel great. And that doesn't mean that I'm just going crazy in the strength gym and, but I'm there every day. I'm doing something, And I even myself need to get better at, even if I can't make it to the gym, there's nothing to say I can't do some body weight exercises for 20 minutes in my
Totally.
bedroom, And that in itself, if you get into that habit, that is tremendous for your health. Just doing those simple exercises, but it's the repetitions,
yeah,
It's the consistency with everything, You can build up strong legs with air squats if you do
Totally.
thousands of them, So, but it takes discipline, But I feel you with that because I've been this last few months. It's going through some injuries. So like a couple of the injuries, I really couldn't do jujitsu or lift. So I try to work around it, you know, but I had my back hurt, my thumb was hurt, still is hurt. And then I got COVID. So I'm just like, I was talking to you before the podcast, I'm just getting back into it these last couple of weeks and, you know, making myself, even though I might not want to do it because I haven't been in the rhythm, you know? I'm the first to always tell people, I'm like, working out, it's the easiest thing to stop going to do and the hardest thing to get back into. Because I've done it myself so many times, you know? So it's not even like I stop. I'm still around the gym. I still do light stuff, but it's just not the same. So like I told you, I'm just trying to get back into a rhythm so where I can build up my, you know, consistency, but also my cardio and get my athleticism back. You know, and I've been eating bad too, you know, just to like, I go down this path where the discipline starts lacking, you know, this is my personally, you know, so I was saying yesterday, I'm like, I'm going to hold myself accountable and like make December like a really healthy month because I think it'll help my physical too, because I've been eating like crap, honestly. And for me, that means too much sugar, too many carbs, candy laying around, Halloween, all the candy, you know. I mean, it's just sweets. That's mainly it for me. I still eat good at times, but it's like excess. So that I'm going to start cutting out. So I'm getting a jump on the New Year diet like this month because I'm, getting back and being sore these last couple of weeks. I'm like, okay. Because you know how all goes together. You know, it's so important together, and most of us do one aspect and not the other, or a little mixture of both. But you definitely perform better when you have a healthy diet and you're consistent with your diet, and so that's where I'm at, man.
Dude, and you know, you're very committed to your health. You know, like you do all that. You know, you have historically, I mean, you've been lifting for
my whole life, actually.
Your whole life. You know, you've been in the strength gym. You know, you're committed to that, and you know, it's interesting. This conversation keeps coming up in my life. I was just talking to my wife Melissa about this because we've talked about in the somewhat future having a kid, and you know, I've talked about on the podcast previously, my grandfather died of a heart attack, and my mom, she's not in great health. She's obese. Yeah. You know, so, and you know, I read a paper a while back, and the whole thing was, it was looking at obesity, and its entire hypothesis was it takes like multiple generations to correct basically health and like obesity, right, going generationally. And you know, I was talking to Melissa about this, and I was like being super committed to my health and fitness. Even, you know, once we have a kid, like it means that much to me to make sure that I maintain that. And I told her, I was like, because, you know, my mom is not super healthy, and I want that for my mom because, you know, I want her to be healthy, but she's never had a healthy lifestyle. Her parents didn't live a healthy lifestyle. Yeah. They both smoked multiple packs a day, and, you know, she doesn't smoke, but, you know, that's what she came up with. She didn't come up in a healthy environment that had people that were prioritizing their health. Definitely. And that plays a big factor into it. And I see like my mom, who particularly ignores a lot of health things. And I was just telling her, I was like, I don't want to be that way. And I want to, as much as I can, make sure that when, you know, if and when we ever do have a kid, that health is a priority to us, because I don't want to be, I want to be able to run and play and jump and do all that stuff with a kid. And it's super important to me. So,
Yeah.
you know, hearing you kind of go through, like, I know that you and I both know you're just going to start back lifting again and
Yeah.
create, you know, it's not like
No.
you know, it's
My
not like
struggle
it's gone,
is my
you know?
struggle is like a temporary one that I know I can get beyond. Where
Right.
some people, they've never been there. They've
Yeah.
never been to that place, and they're trying to get to where they can go 6, 7 days a
Right.
week, you know, or doing anything for 3 days a week, doing jujitsu
And so
for 2 days a week. I mean,
Totally.
people aren't there, you know. So
And you have people on both of those ends of those spectrums,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
everybody's,
I mean-
it's like, how can I get to that? You know,
Yeah.
how can I 2 or 3 times? Maybe somebody's struggling 2 or 3 times a week on the gym, and
yeah,
whatever. But
it's all relative to the person in this situation. A lot of times, you and I, obviously, we were speaking from our own experience on the podcast, so our listeners, they hear us, and it's like, oh, these guys are trying to train 3-4 times a week, you know. I talked to a young lady athlete the other day here in the Valley. She's really good. Like, how often are you training? You know, oh, you know, at least 2 or 3 times a day. Every day, pretty much 6 days a week. So there's like levels to this game, you know. It's like
yeah,
that is you and I could not keep up with that, you know.
totally.
That's a young person's game at that level. And I know several people that train, you know, multiple times a day. They're super competitive, but you know what I mean? It's like, so I always kind of want to level set that. Sometimes it might think, you know, you and I might be sitting here thinking, oh my God, 4 times a week we're training, you know, feeling great. And people are like, pfft. Some people, I mean, honestly, some people are like, oh, I get that in 2 days, you know,
Yeah,
and the hard training. So it's all relative, you know, to your, you know, your history, your commitment, but also your needs, you know. It's like, I mean, the last several years I've been operating where I can do, you know, the best for me is 3 days of jiu-jitsu and 3 days of strength training. So, you know, I have done both where I've done both more, you know, but there's like this fine line for me where it's like, I got to kind of balance it at my age, you know. I'm balancing everything. It's a balancing act, you know. So if I train maybe too much jiu-jitsu or go 4 times and let's say I'm rolling hard every day, maybe I'm too broken and beat down. So where then I start, maybe I go lift the next day and I get injured, or my neck hurts, or I pull, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Those are things I have to think about constantly because it's always one or the other. You know, I'm just like, if I strain my back in jiu-jitsu, it affects the lifts and the strength training. And then you get weak in some areas, and then you overcompensate, and then you go back and forth. So, you know, one of the topics we were chatting about is just like working through injuries, and that in itself, it's like, how much can you train? How much workload can you put in? Which is what we're talking about right now. And then also, how do you, which you in particular, becoming more and more of an expert at this, is how do you train or rehab those, you know, those aches and pains you have, because it might not always be an injury, right? It might be something that's, I guess it depends on the definition of injury, but you might have something where you probably shouldn't be rolling and doing too much jiu-jitsu, where it's not anything major, but it could lead to something.
Could turn into something.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen that a bunch of times. I've seen it in particular with ribs, honestly, in the gym. You know, we have that service at our site where we spray cold vapor right on the injured area, and we've done a bunch of those on ribs. It's almost always a grappler or somebody that does martial arts, but I've done several of the guys at our gym. I've done my own ribs, popped my ribs a couple times, and let me tell you something. I don't have any like scientific data, or it's not like we track anything. You know, we're just a spa service company. But just listening back from athletes, it speeds up the process tremendously. You know, and I know that from myself. I'm holding my ribs right now when I'm talking, it's just funny, but because that's where, you know, I have like a protruding one because I've injured it so many times, you know, in grappling. So, it's like that cartilage gets inflamed, I think, is what those injuries
I got one
are.
of those too.
And man, they take forever. But it's really one of those ones you have to be careful when you're grappling, because I've literally told a man to his face, at least one, you got to take it easy out there with this one. It's usually 4 to 6 weeks, depending on the severity. I mean, I've known people that have slight ones, but if you get one of those ones where the first day or two is like it hurts to sneeze, that type of thing going on, it's going to be a few weeks. And if you keep getting in those positions, you're in half guard and somebody's smashing you, or you're whatever it is in jiu-jitsu. I mean, you know how much that midsection gets involved with everything. So I've seen a couple guys where they go back and they hurt it more, and then they're out for a couple months.
That's my story with ribs.
Yeah. So
one of those.
The cold vapor, man, it helps tremendously get the inflammation down. It literally, not only does it help speed it up, but you literally just feel relief, which is probably the best part about that treatment, is people feel, especially something like that where it's just bugging the shit out of you constantly. And they take time, those things. But I guess my point is you gotta, like, some of these you can train around. Like my thumb, I've been wrapping it. I have a brace, and just going and teaching and getting some rolls in, and went to an open mat this last weekend. But you gotta be smart about these things, and a lot of people aren't. I mean, I've even had people in our class and stuff, and I'm hearing them the way they're. And this is kind of what we talk about this all the time with your business and our podcast, but people training through injuries, and man, it's like you almost have to, I guess, you got to know what the hell's going on first, right? I mean, what would you say in terms of, like, somebody that might not know? Because we've been in this game for a while, but I've literally had younger grapplers where I've had a white belt come into my shop and his elbow was just torn up, and he's like completely clueless. Like I'm recommending you should probably go get that looked at or whatever. Yeah. I can help you with some cold and but he probably didn't tap got his arm cranked or something, arm bar, whatever. But what would you tell somebody that's maybe, I know who I'm going to go to is like yourself, or people that can diagnose what's going on first, and then, obviously look at what type of treatment. If you didn't done jiu-jitsu long enough, you're going to know these things or know people that have went through them. But for someone new, what would you tell them? Same thing, just go get some expert opinion, go to the BJJ physio.
Man, so there's I guess the first thing that I want to unpack there is that this is, I don't want to say this is like a hot take here, but what I want to say is that, in my opinion, the way that jiu-jitsu athletes normalize pain and dysfunction is one of the worst parts of jiu-jitsu culture that I have seen. It is terrible. It's like people roll into gyms, I mean, duct tape together.
Yeah.
It's like, and they think it's just normal. Like, to not take care of these issues.
What do you think that's from? I have my own opinion. Or let's just break that down. What do you think that's from?
I mean,
probably from the culture of jiu-jitsu, just being
culture of jiu-jitsu,
tough
where
guy sport.
Tough guys, a lot of coaches in the past have previously, they have passed that on. I mean, they've passed that. They have perpetuated. They have perpetuated to you just need to train through it. You need to train harder. Keep showing up.
Yeah, we've literally heard these words come out of people. I'm sure you've heard people say that.
You see, if you hang around in the gym long enough, you sit on the sidelines with somebody, and they'll sit there and tell you, "Oh yeah, my knees are barely functioning."
Yeah,
or oh, I can't turn my, I can't bend my head to the left at all.
This is, by the way, listeners, this is the exact moment Wes thought, I'm going to open the BJJ physio as my place of work, because everyone sits on the side on the mats and they just all need help. Nobody knows what to do with their injuries. And literally, that's basically how you came up with this. Just to give you a shameless plug, I mean, that is literally why you told me this is, you want to help these athletes. It's because you've been around and you know this whole. It's a weird thing, this whole culture about. It's just I don't. You know what it is? It's like, it's this. It's the whole macho part of it, the culture, the historical. Coming out of Brazil, there's no pansies getting through there. You know what I mean? You're not gonna complain. That's just how hardcore the gyms were, from what I've heard. You don't complain about that stuff. You get in there the next day, and if you're not in the next day, your coach is going to ask you where you are. So that's probably where it started, But it's 2021. We've come a long way. It's like I think jiu-jitsu has been a little slow, or maybe not slow, but I think we're in that. I don't know what age you would call it. I wouldn't say golden age, but where we're building into something bigger.
It's rapidly changing.
Yeah, rapidly changing. It needs some more professionalism in the way athletes, and I think we're getting there more. Obviously, since I've been doing it, I've seen a huge change in professionalism and how athletes are treating the sport. With the highest level, yes, you're going to get that. But the thing with jiu-jitsu is there's so many amateurs that do it. That's what's I think is like this. But I'm trying to think of other sports that people do that get injured a lot and just work through the injuries. I don't know. Wrestling. Probably, but there's not like adult. There's not a lot of adult amateur wrestlings, right?
Yeah.
I mean, jiu-jitsu is just blown up to where the woman that works down the road at the school teacher, she's training now, and she might not have ever went to the gym in her life, and now she's facing these things,
You don't see this with rec league, at least that I know. I mean, maybe I'm not in a rec league baseball or softball league.
Yeah.
But, take a 40-year-old man that sprains his whatever running to second base and is the culture exactly. And there's nobody that's going to sit there and be like, you just need to keep playing.
Yeah.
You just need to keep going. There's nobody that's going to do that. Get back. That's right. He's going to sit down and he's done for the day or done for the week or done for 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Because he's a rec league player.
It's hard to compare.
Nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, no. But, it's just, it's, you know what it is too? There's so much contact in jiu-jitsu versus most other sports. If you think about it, there isn't really there's no real masters league for football. It's because people can't last. That's why football players, pro football players, they're all young. The majority of them are young, and the time in sport is very short. So on average, it's a rough sport. So can you imagine, that's what I'm saying, you imagine now taking hundreds of thousands of amateurs and they're now, it's not like you're out there playing tennis, you know what I mean? It's like, it's game on, there's so much interactive physicality with jiu-jitsu. It's very unique. Obviously, I don't need to tell you that. I mean, there's nothing else nothing is like jiu-jitsu that puts your body in those positions.
Yeah.
Nothing. There's nothing like that.
Yeah, the reason, I've started to post, I'm starting to post more about this. I've gotten away from it because I've been focusing on cardio and getting people to do more cardio and showing some of the coaching platform that I use and all that stuff. And I was tagged in a post, and the person asked, "What's the worst thing what's the worst injuries that you've had in jiu-jitsu?" And it was a guy that's got tens of thousands of followers, and I just started scrolling through these answers, and I was like, this is unbelievable. I was blown away, and people are just, it was just normal. And people were laughing about it. Yeah. And to me, it was really sad. And I was like, I have got so much more work to do.
You have
a
lot of potential clients, man.
I was like, I have got so much more work to do to get people to realize that you can work on these things. You can fix these things.
Yeah.
You don't, if, you go, like, if you're, man, you're going to see this one come out too. If you're a white belt competing in a tournament and you separate your shoulder and you think that, I get to glory, like, I got these medals and it's all pride and glory. Like, no, dude, you're an idiot. Like, you're risking, you're an idiot.
Oh, there's people that think that way, 100%.
There's 100%.
Yeah,
and I'm going to show one.
They're definitely
and
there.
To me, it was like, no, dude, like, you're risking a permanent, lifelong injury. Yeah. Like, you're risking surgery. What if the surgery gets botched? We've had somebody on our story that had on our podcast. If you want to listen to that one, go listen to Josh Rodriguez's episode where he had a surgical intervention that failed.
Yeah.
And not just failed, but
it could have been
failed
bad.
in like an epic way.
Yeah.
When you start getting cut on, there's no coming back from that. And it's not to say that the surgery won't be successful, but when people start getting cut on, those tissues are never the same. You're fixing, so-called fixing one injury, but you're inducing another one.
Yeah.
Because you're cutting on those tissues. And so you're risking a lifelong injury, months or potentially years of rehab.
Yeah.
And this thing may never be the same because you want a gold 10 medal. Like,
yeah,
that's not glory, brother. Like, and it's gonna come up here pretty soon. And
well, that'd be a topic in of itself,
And so
at some point
it's
in
like,
time.
It is like this normalization of things, of our injuries. I went through that other post that I was talking about where I got tagged and just saw people, and you could just scroll through it and it was like, this is absolutely unbelievable. I can't even believe what I'm reading right now.
I think part of it's probably natural. It's a natural phenomenon that's happening, honestly. Think about it, because maybe the forefathers, and if the culture was different right away, maybe jiu-jitsu wouldn't be what jiu-jitsu is. It wouldn't be. Yeah. Let's say they were taking so much caution back in the day that any little thing you couldn't train. Well, that's going to change the course and the future of jiu-jitsu. Having said that, basically we are here where we are because there was not, as jiu-jitsu has grown and blown up, there isn't anything that tells anyone otherwise. Mm-hmm. Because it is the reality of it. That's the key. It is the reality of the situation is we're all training in these environments where we're getting injured and working through. Some people are smart and some people take breaks and some people quit forever after an injury. But yeah, not everybody is saying, "Hey, get back out there and train through your injury." There are that people, but what I'm saying is the bigger thing is that there really isn't like a mass education on what can go wrong and the things you just spoke about, tissues and being young and being cut on, and is it worth, you got to think about other things in life. But I'm just saying, like, it's just a natural phenomenon that there's 10,000 comments or whatever, thousands of comments on that guy's post or hundreds of comments talking about this. That doesn't surprise me because there's so many people doing it, and we know the rate of injury, even if it's minor, right? It's relatively high. I mean, everyone I know is always
gonna get dings. You're gonna get dings and
beat up or dinged up.
Yeah.
And so naturally, a lot of us can just joke about it and talk about it. You and I looking in from the outside, it's like, oh, there's a problem here, but we're all living this problem. Like, it's like, what is the solution? It's just people speaking like yourself and helping people realize those things. And it's almost like it's never going to come from anyone other but people like yourself or us, the people that train and that get educated on it or are educated enough to know what to do and provide a better culture. But that doesn't mean it's not going to, the culture part we can change. I think that's changing 100%. I mean, obviously, any professional business, okay, let's strip the academy and the history and the jiu-jitsu out of it. No one in their right mind is going to say, oh, you got injured on my property and my business? Go ahead and keep training tomorrow. Make sure you're back here tonight. That is one of the dumbest things you can do as a gym owner. You know, it's like you were literally setting yourself up for some future action, obviously, especially if somebody doesn't know what to do. My gym owner told me to keep going, you know. I told him it was this. Or just people guilting you into it. That just definitely doesn't exist here in our circles and the gyms I'm around and know. But it is out there. You've told, you know, you have different experiences, and you've experienced gyms that did dojo storming. So
yeah, totally.
You know, there's gyms that still will slap the belt on your back when you get a promotion. You know, it's like everybody does it a different way, and not everybody's a good business owner. But smart people will always say, "Now, get that looked at. You know, let's take care of that before you get back out here." I mean, I always take care of my students like that. You know, if someone's, it's like, now they're their own person, but you know, I can give them my 2 cents. It's like, this one you need to maybe not, you know, and I have said that. I'm like, take it easy right now. What you're doing for training isn't really doing you much anyway. You know, it's like one of those things. It's like, because some people just want to get back out there because it's fun.
Yeah.
That's another huge part of this. Probably
totally.
a tremendously huge part. It's like, you want to get out there so bad because it's fun, but then, so sometimes you compromise on your abilities or what. And I've done this myself. I'm gonna wrap my ankle up, and I won't use that foot. Say something stupid like that, or you know. And I've done it recently with my thumb. I'm like, oh, this will be fine. First time I go to grab a grip, it jammed my thumb, and you know, and just like, so we compromise, but because you're never gonna, like, in this sport, it's just so hard to be 100%. You know, so you're riding that wave. You're not like, it'd be easy if you tell me, Paul, you know, you take 45 days off, and in 45 days you will feel like a 30-year-old man. You're going to be 100%. All that rest is going to have helped. I might consider that, okay? But you know that's not the case. You can't just sit there for 45 days. That's not how the body works, right?
Yeah.
Now, maybe you shouldn't be training, but you should be doing something. Because let me tell you, my shit's going to go downhill. Stop working out completely and stop eating. Do you think you're going to you might not have the same types of injuries and sorenesses, but your health is going to be in the shithole in a couple months.
Yeah.
So that's part of the problem, is like, how do you dial it back from jiu-jitsu, heal yourself, but, you know, still keep it going, keep your mind in the game. You almost have to change up. You do have to change up your training. You know, I tell people all the time, I've said this since I was even a white belt, or probably a blue belt. White belts, I didn't have the right to say anything, but I experienced as a white belt because as I got my first couple injuries, one was a rib injury. I came in every time. I still came to every class. And I didn't even know, like, I was just like, no, I want to learn. I just can't roll. And I told my instructor that. There were small classes at the time. Ever since then, I've been telling people, like, that's something you know what I mean? And I have friends that do that. It's like, you don't have to go in and go hard and go crazy. Now, maybe your gym doesn't want you to come in, but to me, I pay a lot of respect for people that do that. If you're so injured that you can't train, but you want to come in, and you can definitely learn. We can all learn something mentally just watching the moves. You know, that's a huge part of your learning. If you haven't understood that yet in jiu-jitsu, that's something to get on. You know, start watching videos, start watching more jiu-jitsu. It'll definitely increase your technical prowess on the mats, because, well, you know, I mean, it's just reps. Anything you learn, the more you study it, the more you visualize it, these things are going to help. So I've always said, you know, taking it all the way back down to that level, if you're so hurt that you need to sit out on the side of the mat. I mean, you're going to earn a lot of respect from your fellow friends and training partners and your coach, you know, because you're still committed to learning. And I'm not saying like you should every week there's something wrong and you're sitting on the mat. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying you sprain your ankle and you can't train for 4 weeks or something like that. it doesn't mean you should take off 4 weeks and not think about jiu-jitsu. That's the worst thing you can do.
Totally.
So go back in and sit and watch and be involved, because part of jiu-jitsu is the community and the involvement and the evolving of everyone together. So that's my 2 cents. And then so that's like the lower end of the spectrum, and then you get all the way up to where, you know, that's when you're completely injured. But we can go to the other side where, you know, I got this, like me right now. I'm not 100%, like I'm feeling really good, but my thumb is still sore, and it's not 100%. So I have to train right now. I'm very much as I can now. When I'm rolling, you know how you start forgetting, but I'm trying to like protect it, because I know if I keep injuring it, that's not going to do me any good, right? Mm-hmm. So I'm in this constant state of being less than 100%. And as you mentioned today in one of your posts, that can create like a downward spiral in other parts of your life, in your mood, your relationships, your job, you know, because you're not training. So that's another big part of it, which is also why people probably train through some injuries.
Yep.
So it's this fine balance of everything. And isn't that what the beauty of jiu-jitsu is? I mean, we can all do better. We can all balance more. And to your point also, a lot of these people just training, doing the air squats every day, doing the push-ups and that strengthens. We've talked about this you've talked about this so many times on the podcast, how it's strengthening everything in your entire body.
Yeah.
And if you don't know by now, if you have a strong body, it's going to 100% benefit you on the mat in so many ways. And it doesn't mean strength. Yep. It means strong body, you know?
Yeah.
Tougher to submit.
Yep.
Less injuries, you know? Injury prevention, just being more physical, and being able to move. Think of people that you know that are not like a specimen or never even have been to the gym that train jiu-jitsu. They are really limited in terms of, or against somebody that's super flexible, somebody that might be a yogi on the side, or, you know what I mean? You know, these Gumby people, they're on one extreme. And then there's people that, if they maybe lost a couple pounds and started going to the gym and strengthening their body, they know jiu-jitsu. Their jiu-jitsu would immediately jump up.
Yeah.
That's 100%. Like, you can gain so much by having a healthier body on the mat. It's like, it's the known thing. Like, if you look at worlds, there's no slobs winning worlds.
No.
None. Not one is ever. I don't know of any that I've ever won. So, doesn't say they don't do jiu-jitsu, but they're not at the high, you know. We can all strive to be better, you know. And even if it's not weight, it might be physicality, you know. Mm-hmm. Lift some weights, you know. I mean, that should no longer be looked down upon in any facet of your life. I mean, they're definitely over and over showing that strength training increases your lifespan, or let's say your health span.
Yeah.
You'll live healthier longer. You'll be more mobile, you know, longer. And you prevent things like falls and breaks in your older age.
Totally.
Like, it's super important.
It's so,
and it also
so
helps increase
important.
For men, helps extend your life of testosterone. Mm-hmm. I mean, the more you lift, that helps your body create testosterone.
I think I could be 100% reading into this, but I think where a lot of people, when they hear lifting weights, what they imagine is like maxing out every day, or going super heavy every
guys like grunt, like, oh!
Right, your stereotypical walking into a gym rat, walking into maybe a powerlifting gym, or a gym where you've got that kind of that kind of culture. And it doesn't have to be that way.
No.
You know,
everyone does it different.
Everyone does it different.
Yeah.
And for jiu-jitsu athletes, like I've told this to people when I talk to them, and when I'm we're kind of forming a relationship where I'm telling you how I program athletes and you're telling me what you want out of a training program. I start with the inside out, because all these And when I say inside out, I'm going to use the shoulder as an example. All of the things that we do in the shoulder, Americanas, Kimuras, omoplatas, all that stuff, it attacks the rotator cuff and the rotator cuff tendons. So I am going to prioritize rotator cuff work earlier on in a strength training program, and then I'm going to build some global strength around it. So like you're going to see a ton of rotator cuff strengthening things from me because I believe in having strong cuffs.
Smart, makes so much sense.
So, and I see this a lot with shoulders. I had that post that we were kind of talking about earlier today. I see this a lot with shoulders, particularly. Shoulders are really, really grumpy. Shoulders can be really grumpy. When you have like a shoulder, like when you sprain your shoulder or something, that's one of those things that it lasts a while.
I am well aware.
And so when you have shoulders are kind of crazy because they've got so much mobility around them that anytime that cuff gets screwed up, it affects the entire shoulder and neck.
Yeah.
So those two go together. But where shoulders get kind of funky is with sleep. Shoulders have this strange capacity, this strange thing with them where they always affect your sleep, because some people sleep on their sides where maybe they're sleeping like this or whatever. Maybe they sleep like this, whatever it is. Shoulders have a strange ability to affect sleep. And when as everybody knows, when sleep is affected, then that affects your ability to heal, but it also affects your day-to-day life.
Yeah.
Because I'm losing sleep. I can't cognitively function the way that I want to because I slept like shit last night. I got 4 hours of sleep. Now my shoulder's grumpy, which means I'm grumpy all day towards my significant other, my dogs, my cats, my coworkers. My jiu-jitsu certainly is affected because I can't play half guard on my right side because I can't lay on my right shoulder, which that limits my game. Anytime somebody snatches, even if somebody even looks at my shoulder, I'm tapping, which pisses me off, and that cycle continues
100%.
all the time. And so I see a lot of this stuff with shoulders. And so when I see these posts about people that are like, I've had this stuff, especially with shoulders, I know exactly what's going on. And it's a cost benefit analysis of how much should you train and can you train? What should I be doing off the mats? Should I just rest it? If I just rest it, most times, I hate to say it, most times with shoulders, rest is most time not the answer. And so then, I'm just going to rest for 3 or 4 weeks. I'm not going to go to the gym and let it go. Most times that never resolves.
No.
Negative spiral ensues. Go back to the gym. Shoulder gets worse.
Yeah.
So I mean, these are stories. I'm not making this up. Like, these are stories that I hear.
That sounds common.
Constantly.
Yeah.
Okay, so I just am.
You got a lot of work to do, bud.
I got a lot of work to do. That's where I was like, okay, I'm gonna have to at least get some more messaging back about this, because clearly there's more need for this. So
it's just so common, It's just so common. So people don't have the skills to address it, and that's just what happens. They're winging it, or WebMD. They're getting online and I've been guilty of it in the past too, but I'm a little bit more cautious and skilled in knowing what the heck's going on with my body these last several years. So that's all you can do. But even with you, it's like, the regular Joe Schmo on the street, he's training, he hurts his shoulder. if rest, like you even said, a lot of times rest, and I know this too. I've had people come into our shop and they're like, "Man, I've been doing anything with this shoulder. It's just not getting better," you know. So if you don't know anybody and you don't know any better, what are you gonna do? You know.
Yeah.
Here's what I did before I did jiu-jitsu. I had those issues. I went, and what a regular person would think he would do is go to a doctor. So then my doctor sent me to like an orthopedic guy, and guess what that guy did? He did surgery on both shoulders.
Referred you to surgery.
Yeah, and I got him scoped out. I would probably never do that today. I didn't do any therapy. Like it wasn't even. I was just not. This is like, I don't even know, 15 years ago probably. And my shoulders were always, I could not even lay in the bed. They were hurting all the time. And it was just overuse. But it got to a point where it was from lifting. And it was from doing, I know exactly what it was from doing too. I was doing like a lot of, back in those days, I would do like tricep extensions with like a curl bar overhead. Like
those skull crushers?
Yeah. I would do a lot of those and I would do like heavy shoulder presses and stuff. And it got to where there was like an impingement. I had impingements on both. I got them done at different times. But I would rest. I would stop lifting, rest. I would try to lift around it, but with your shoulders, there's nothing like... I wasn't smart enough to do therapy and do things like you've taken me through to heal my knee. Things like that, where you're starting off at the base and you're building it up and you're doing different... There was none of that, you know? I had a weightlifting book or whatever. Like, there wasn't as much information online. I just wasn't as intelligent about it. So I just thought this would fix it. It did fix it, by the way. But what was happening was I would lift, aggravate them. Everything I did in life, from picking up my kid to working, I worked all the time, full-time job, obviously. Everything would hurt it, aggravate it again. I'd rest it, think it was better. I'd lift, do something that I think wouldn't even hurt it. I'd aggravate it. It's just, I mean, what they told me was like this bone that goes over the socket.
The acromion.
Was limited. I had limited space in there compared to others, whatever that means. So they shaved the underside of that.
So they don't do that much anymore?
I don't ever have shoulder problems since then.
Yeah.
At all. I mean, unless I might have hurt my shoulder getting like in my jiu-jitsu career, you know, getting Kimura or something, or I don't know. But I don't recall ever. It's never been like my things that are constant for me, for the most part, is like tendonitis of the elbows. Like that's been the constant. I'm always fighting that at some, you know, right now they feel fine, but you know, because I'm just, either you're fighting off Kimuras or if I'm playing top half, people are always trying to Kimura or grabbing your arm and just grabbing grips in the gi, you know. It's like a lot of people have that tenderness in here. And then compound that if you're lifting with that, and that's also something I experienced recently. I told you I trained a bunch the other day. I was like, the next day I was sore. I feel really great now, but the next day, Saturday, my tendonitis was really super sore on the inside of my elbows, both of them. And what it was the day before I trained jiu-jitsu and a bunch of that, and then Saturday, or like the next day or something, I did some curls at the gym. I went to the gym and trained a little bit. Really light because I was sore. But just the combination of that the following day. So it was like the combination of all those things, right? So that's that balance. It's like, it wasn't smart for me to do that. I didn't think it was that big of a deal. But then like the next day I had super tender in there. Thankfully, because I was kind of concerned. I'm like, man, this is really sore. But now I'm
didn't stick around.
As we're talking, I'm feeling it. I'm feeling fine. So, again, flared up at that moment, but I mean, the shoulder thing, I probably would have went back and I would definitely have tried to do some more. There's just so many more options now. I don't know. I would have done totally different. I didn't stretch. I was just being more stupid, doing stuff in the gym and not really.
Just maintenance, man. It's just, if you're going to be an athlete, you got to maintain, you know, it requires maintenance.
Yeah.
It's not, you know, it's not, you know, athletes don't They don't just go do their sport and then go home.
Right.
Like they have maintenance things that they have to do.
It's almost like jiu-jitsu requires you to be an athlete. You know, in a way, because
Totally.
most
You're
of
doing
us,
athletic movements.
most people that start, not most, but a lot of people that start, I'll see new white belts posting on BJJ Fanatics. They got their first stripe and stuff. It's like, oh, that person, you know, they didn't ever do anything
Yeah.
before.
Yeah.
Now, that doesn't mean they can't do jiu-jitsu and not be athletic. But what I think it means is that people know, or the sport itself requires you to be athletic, requires that, because the more you do it, if you're going to do it consistently, you're going to lose weight, your body's going to transform. It requires it. If you're not going to do these things and you're not going to press forward, you end up quitting, or you just don't advance. But it goes back to what we were saying. The most competent and physical people on the mat, most of them are doing some type of building up their body, right?
Yeah.
And it's this whole balancing act that we've been talking about this whole time. But as you train, you know, we have a bunch of master listeners that are in their masters 30 years and up. Man, it doesn't get any easier. The balancing act becomes more difficult, as does your life. You know, as I can say this, I mean, you have more responsibilities as if you're having families, you know, you're having kids and your relationships, and you have all this stuff to balance. It's different if you're just a 20-year-old kid coming out, you know, going to college and training on the side. I mean, everyone has different experiences, right? But my point is as your body gets older, man, you really gotta. I'm trying to just keep mine optimized as much as possible. So for me, and I've talked about this on the show, I like finding that balance and just every day waking up, doing the same, that, you know, making sure I hit those goals for the week. Mm-hmm. 3 in 3 days. If I want to do more, or I want to do an open mat, for me personally, I have to consider how hard I'm going to train. Is it going to affect? I don't want to go to open mat and do a bunch of rounds on a Saturday, which I would love to. Okay, but you have to consider this. At 47, I'm just putting this out there. I mean, this isn't going to be the same for somebody that's 27 that's listening, or somebody that's 17 that's listening, right? Mm-hmm. But for me, I don't want to put myself going into the next week injured, so that here we go again. I'm fighting that. Now on Monday, I'm supposed to be doing jiu-jitsu, and I'm hurting. Or, you know what I mean? And it goes that downward spiral, just like you talked about. And so it doesn't even have to be with an injury. It can just be with your training. And I'm saying I might not get injured in an open mat, but maybe my body's wrecked.
Yep.
You know? Because you can still, and I told you this before the show, but I haven't been training. I have not been in that mode for a couple months, you know. Injuries, I had COVID. I was shocked on how sore I was after open mat the other day, because I thought I was still teaching in the gym. I still roll once in a while here, and, you know, nothing really hard though, and nothing repetitive. Like, I haven't done more than a couple rolls a day, you know. Mm-hmm. So, but on open mat, I went a couple hours, you know, hour and a half. So the next day I was so sore, man. I was almost like, damn, this feels like I'm a beginner, like really sore, like my whole body. I was like, oh my God. Thankfully I bounced back. So that was Saturday. I was sore. Today's Monday when we're recording this episode. And I feel a lot better, but, you know, I also do hot sauna. I do cryo. Mm-hmm. So I don't want to forget to mention those things, you know, because it's so ingrained in what I do. But I do think I've been doing this for a long time, you know. I mean, there's something about the dedication. 100%. That's the first thing. To do it, I've been doing some kind of strength training. Now, don't get me wrong. There's been times where I've taken several months, like maybe when my kid was born, I was, you know, or one of my kids was born. Maybe I was sloughed off and I didn't even work out for 8 months. So there has been times like that. But for the most part, it's been every month, my whole life. You know, I've been doing something, like even weight training, you know, and I'm not a guy that goes in there and throws up tons of weight. Mm-hmm. I just like practical strength stuff that's not going to injure me in the gym, you know? So a lot of isolation exercises, you know, and of course I like doing kettlebell stuff. If you know what you're doing, I have some clubs I swing from time to time. Mm-hmm. But there's so much you can do. But the thing for me is like that I see being a little bit wise in this area, people don't stick with anything. Yeah. It's all about the consistency. I always tell people, good job, you made it 2 weeks. Come back in 6 months and then come back in a year. I want to see a 6 month and a year. In a year, you're going to be completely different person. If you're going, let's take strength. If you've never done strength training and you get a trainer and you start with 2 days a week even, and then you go to 3, and by 6 months you're 3 or 4 days a week. Maybe one day you're doing, let's just take a regular simple gym plan, a cardio, you're on the bike. The other 3 days you're spending 45 minutes doing a machine workout. In 1 year,
totally.
You're going to advance so much and feel so much better and have so much more strength. 1 year. But people cannot. I've seen so many people fail at that one. They cannot do it. That's why the gyms are so busy in January and so much less busy the following month or two.
In December.
Yeah, exactly.
or in March.
Yeah. But, jiu-jitsu can be said the same about that, It's like but I don't know. I'm just, my point is like no matter what your age, get on that plan. And I'm proud I have students that I've seen now that they're more consistent in class. They're more than me now. It's like, but no matter if it's a jiu-jitsu, if it's an all-around thing, just get on a plan and we've said this so many times on the podcast, do something that you're able to do if you're starting out. Mm-hmm. I'm going to come, here's a report back on that guy. I don't know. We talked about it episodes ago about the white belt that came in. He said, I'm going to train every day. We told him 3 days a week. Make sure you come.
You show back up?
No.
So
another one bites the dust. but my point is like, he had the mentality of like, I'm going to do so much. And I just knew. I'm like, no, you're not. Like, people don't understand their own limitations sometimes and their own mental limitations, because I have them. I've been motivated like every day, and still sometimes it's like your mind's telling you don't do that, or don't go work out, or let's be lazy. So that guy, hopefully he's picked it up somewhere else. But I personally don't think he's been training anymore. But that's what happens in jiu-jitsu. It's not for everyone. It's really, really hard.
Yeah.
Sometimes we forget about being around it so much. You forget about how hard it is. But and let's say you're an upper belt, purple, brown belt. You've been in the game for a long time. Any of our listeners, black belt, of course. Go pay close attention to like someone that's really new, that's maybe like 2 or 3 months in, and they're really trying hard. And look how hard it is for them. Mm-hmm. Because in your mind, you watch them, and I do this as a coach, and I'm like, you see endless opportunities of what they can do, right? You just see it all.
Yeah.
At our level, I mean, let's say they don't even have their guard locked up or something. They just have a sloppy open guard. That's not even really open guard. They just have their legs open. Like, where are you going to start? It's so much. And the beauty of jiu-jitsu is that after time and after reps, you start making those pathways and making your own game and start learning the language. I don't think I've ever referred to it more. In this part of my career in jiu-jitsu, I feel like I'm learning so much because I did a lot of study this last year, a ton of study. Like, I've studied a lot. I watch a lot of videos and a lot of competition matches, and it's like a language. And there's people that are really fluent in it, and I'm not there, Yeah. But I feel like I have a good understanding of it, and now, it goes at levels, as you might be a blue belt, but you're super skilled and this one particular guard or position. That's great. But your instructor, who's been a black belt for 20 years, knows that from most positions, and there's still stuff that person's learning. The game is still developing now as we speak. So, it really is a language. But going back to the white belt, just go watch a white belt, and it'll actually give you some appreciation on how far you've come, to be honest. Yeah. Because it's a fucking hard road.
It's really hard.
And a lot of people drop out. And so let's say you are new to jiu-jitsu, or you're in that phase that, maybe you're in the honeymoon phase, or you're in the first year or so, just stick with it, make a plan. And the more consistent, it's like everything with the more time on the mat really is, you can study a lot on your own, but especially being new, you got to get out there and get some rolls and put this stuff in play. The biggest part of your journey when you're new is you have to be on the mat, because you just can't get an online blue belt. It doesn't make any sense, and it doesn't matter. So you have to experience the rolls. So you set those weekly goals. And I think my point was to all this is like, no matter your age, just get in that groove, try it for a while, and try to like see what advances you make. Because man, I've been in that groove where I know I'm not there right now, but there's been times where I'm just like working out every day, and I've gotten to this pace where I'm like, I feel like unstoppable, honestly. Mm-hmm. And those are the best times I perform in the gym. But those things have escaped me in the last few months. So I don't know if I'm freaking out or if I'm like, I'm getting too old. Like it is like that though. Like for somebody that's been in that groove, you have to stay in it. Like, you know what I mean?
Totally.
And then, that might not be at a high level, but just get in some type of rhythm and pattern so that anything that gets thrown your way, you can measure and then understand which way to go forward.
That's right.
I think that's probably a good way to like summarize it, because if you don't have the baseline, you don't know what you're up against. Mm-hmm. You've never had that elbow injury. You've been training jiu-jitsu for 3 months. That's going to be different than somebody that's an elite athlete that got some tendonitis on their elbow. And you'd probably have different advice for both of them, So, man, you got to like find your baseline, get some physicality, and then just stick with it and maybe set some goals for this next year. I think we'll in the next couple episodes, we'll maybe have an episode on Wes giving us some advice on some goal setting. And I know he's been planning a lot for his business, business goals, but also, performance goals in jiu-jitsu. I think it's important. I have some goals for myself this year. I've already been thinking about it, and I'm usually not one to set New Year's resolutions, but this is a year where I'm like, I feel like these last few months require it, because I've been less disciplined. I don't feel myself lately at all. So I think I'm just going to be even kick it up a notch with healthier, more committed to exercise and physicality, because although I mostly feel good, there's a lot of stretching I could do, a lot more yoga type activities, flexibilities needs to be huge for me at this point. So everybody probably maybe be thinking about that, and we'll pick that up in the next episode or two before the new year.
Yeah.
Does that sound good? Cool, man. Well, you got anything else?
I got nothing.
Good topic as always, and everybody go out and support our podcast. We've been really busy lately, guys and gals. Support Wes at the BJJ Physio. Go check it out on Instagram. He's got a website. RollUnion.com is my apparel company. You can order some stuff. We should probably have some Christmas deals coming up next month in December if you missed out on the Black Friday, which went well. We got some new rash guards in there. And
you got the new ranked rash guards, right?
Yeah, we got ranked rash guards. I got a couple short sleeve ones, black, different styles. Man, I got some good response on them already, and I love them, man. I made them so that they're real comfortable. So you can also order there's a pre-order out there if you want. You can take a look at the uniform gi insider information. That one will be available for the next couple months, probably be stocked for a little bit, but limited supply. And then after that, we'll have a couple new limited edition, limited release pre-orders, which means I got a couple really sick designs being made. So those will come out in the beginning of 2021. You can order one in your own size, and we'll go from there. Support those two. If you're in Tempe or the AZ area, go to Chill Fit Cryo. It's my cryotherapy spa. We do a lot of jiu-jitsu athletes. We take care of a lot of people, a lot of combat professionals and amateurs, fighters. Had a couple boxers in there that were on a card this last weekend. There's always MMA guys in there. A lot of jiu-jitsu. Mm-hmm. It's funny sometimes. This is our slower time of year, so it's a great time to get in there. Get in there, and right now we have amazing specials. If you're listening to this, you can get really good deals. We have Black Friday deals going on in there. But it's funny because sometimes I've had it to where And this isn't a place where, with cryo, the services are pretty quick. So the longest thing that you can do in there is do like a compression massage. So we hook
Mm-hmm.
up the Normatec boots. You lay there for 30 minutes, really relaxing. Almost everyone falls asleep. It's super relaxing. Helps circulation in your legs and lymphatic drainage, all that jazz. You've seen the Normatecs.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So everyone's in and out, but at times you'll have people, some people doing Normatec, some people would be doing cryo, and there's been times where like 3 different groups or people were all jiu-jitsu athletes, and they're all from different gyms.
That's
And that's
awesome.
happened multiple times. So it's funny because that's how many jiu-jitsu athletes need. First of all, it caps off this topic. We get injured a lot, so it's part of basically the reason why I thought that would be a good business to start. And it's turned out well in the jiu-jitsu community for sure. We have a lot of just putting cold on your inflammation. Turns out it works pretty well. It does not. It's not something that is going to heal major injuries, but think of some of our services like if you have, especially with like tendonitis. Like I've used this machine that blows that cold. I've used it so many times on myself, so many I can't count. Because if I just get a little bit of inflammation in my elbow, I just go and hit that thing. I'll hit it for like 3 days straight. It's like 5 minutes of cold vapor on there, gone. And sometimes in one treatment. So it just tells me it's just inflammation, And that's why ice packs work. You're feeling the pain and you put an ice pack on there, it's like cools everything down. That's the whole premise of it. This is just like gets deeper into the tissue. So we got that. Anyway, awesome deals on those guys. Everyone else, have a safe week of training, and we will see you next week.
Next week.